Hello, good evening to Monday night yoga class, 7:30 till 8:30. My name is Paul Newman. So we always start, as ever, lying on our backs in a corpse pose in an initial relaxation. So you can take the heels just out to mat width and then tuck the tailbone a little bit so the back of the neck becomes long as you soften into the mat, one vertebra at a time. Shoulders come down, widen, and then the back of the head. Tuck the chin just a little bit so the back of the neck is long, and take the hands just far enough from the body so the palms can turn up comfortably. So that might be 6 to 10 inches, a little bit closer for women, a little bit further away for men. And then allow the legs, all the tension just to relax so the feet fall out to the sides. Just bring yourself mindfully into the room, letting go of your day. Long, slow, deep breaths, paying mindful attention to the breath as it flows in and as it flows out. So noticing all the sensations of cooler air as the breath flows in through the sinuses, and then the warmer air as it flows out. And have a sensation of touching the breath as it leaves you. Just notice the point at which it leaves you and starts dissolving outwardly into the atmosphere. So start counting the breath now from 10 down to 0. Nice long slow deep breath, so that as you reach 0 there's nowhere else to go except to keep counting zeros. Slow deep breaths. Feel the belly expanding as the diaphragm pushes down into the belly, relaxing the abdominals so the breath flows out. On each exhale you can imagine space in front of you and then dispersing at the end of the exhale, and then a full inhale setting on the full length of your exhale. In beside you. We're going to take some full body stretch, so stretching in, breathing in, stretching out through the fingertips, pointing out through the toes, stretching, stretching, stretching. On the exhale, release the stretch, leave the arms where they are, stretching it once more, right side, right arm, right leg, keeping the left side passive, and then changing side, stretching the left side, left arm, left leg, and keeping the right side passive. Overhead, and then on the exhale bring the knees into the chest, hug around the shins, and take the head and shoulders off the mat, taking the forward towards the knees, pointing out from the toes, holding around the top of the shins, pointing with the elbows down towards your glutes. Feet on the floor, hip width, knees bent, knees pointing up, arms in beside you, palms facing down, and we're coming into row. Pressing with the full width of the spread palms, the flat palms, spread fingers, as you peel the tailbone, then the pelvis, the lower back, one vertebra at a time, until you have a straight line, knees through the hips, down the length of the spine to the shoulders. On the exhale, rolling back down the way we came up, upper back, softening into the middle back, softening into the lower back, pelvis, then sacrum comes down last. Tilt the pelvis slightly, inhale. Exhale back to neutral spine, and then inhale, lifting all the way up, rippling the spine off the mat. Push up a little bit higher if you like to, so that the front thighs are pushing up higher. Inhaling, coming up. If you wish to, you can take the arms up overhead, so you come back further onto the shoulders, rolling back down. Arms can come back down last. Do a few more of those in your own time. Breathing in to come up, exhaling to come back down. And then on your next one down, hold down and take the arms out to shoulder height if you have space at the fronts of the shoulders, and full length of the backs of the shoulder to elbow, pressing down through the backs of the elbows. Bring the feet in together and the heels up, and then on the exhale, knees across to the right. Just relaxing into the belly twist, looking up towards the sky, or if it's comfortable on the neck, and pressing a little bit with the right knee into the left, around the back on the left side. Keeping both shoulder blades flat on the floor, pressing into the back of the left arm. Down with the left knee. And then inhale, bring the knees up to centre. Exhaling, I'm going to take the knees to the left. And if it's comfortable, turn the head to look right. Again, pressing with the right knee into the left knee and more strongly into the back of the right elbow, or the full width of the right palm if your arm is extended. A nice stretch around the lower back here, and then inhaling, bring the knees up. We're going to take the left ankle to the front of the right thigh, and on the exhale the legs are going over to the right side. And then just allow that left knee to relax over towards the right side of the mat, on the left knee, or the upper thigh, the lower thigh rather, and just allow the weight of the arm to draw that knee just a little bit further down towards the mat. No pulling at this point, just allowing the weight of the arm and gravity to do the work. Again, you can turn the head and look left if you wish, or keep looking straight up. So now press down into the sole of the left foot and hold the hand, so as the right knee tries to pull away, pull back just that much with the right hand, so that you're getting more of a dynamic stretch around the outside of the left hip. And then inhaling, coming all the way up to centre again. We're going to keep the legs in the same position and then take the legs over to the left, so over towards the left to look right if it's comfortable. Looking down the length of the right arm. Left ankle to press back against the right thigh as it tries to lift. You can rock the hips backwards and forwards a little bit, looking where you're finding the stretch. And then inhale, legs come upright, both feet to the floor hip width, and change sides. Exhaling, legs turns to look right if it's comfortable. Left hand through the weight of the arm to find that stretch on the outside of the body. Breathing deeply into where you feel the stretch. Imagine the breaths leaving the lungs and flowing all the way down. Again, those pressing down with the sole of the right foot and resisting the temptation of the right knee to lift with the left hand. Keeping the left in time with the breath, massaging the outside of the hip. And then releasing the knee to shoulder height and changing sides, so you have the right ankle pressing the left thigh, left knee over towards the right side of the mat, and turn the head to look left or look straight up, your choice. And resisting the temptation of the left knee to lift by pressing back with the right ankle as you make these little hip wiggles. So massaging the hip and drawing the breath down to wherever you feel the stretch. And then both feet to the front, hug the knees into the chest, keep the head and shoulders back on the mat this time, and draw some small circles on the mat with your lower back the other way round. And then separate the knees and take the knees in opposite directions, opening up the inner thighs. And then place both feet to the floor, knees splaying out to the side, soles of the feet together, and take the hands out to the sides. And we're going to, and then the middle back and then the lower back as we reach forward and down with the fingertips towards the heels, and then lie back, taking the arms back. So we're going to try and increase that movement a little bit faster. And see if we can build up a bit of momentum without using the hands. And then the elbows come to the outside, insides of the knees. And if you have a block, it's on the block. So this is called Tadasana or bound angle pose or cobbler's pose. And we're going to do some breathing, pushing the small of the back through to the belly button as we breathe in, taking the gaze forward, out and up, inhaling, and then exhaling, coming to the upright position. Inhaling and exhaling. If you can get the sit bones so they're just rolling off the front corner of the block, that helps tilt you forward as you take the gaze forward, out and up. Inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. And then butterfly the knees, just see if the thighs have relaxed slightly. If you feel any discomfort in the knees, then make sure the feet are flexed, pushing down together through the heels so that you're protecting the knees to an extent. And then bring the knees together and hug the chest towards the front thighs. Sitting up straight, still pushing through with the small of the back towards the belly button. We're coming into Ardha Matsyasana, so we're going to take the left ankle to the front of the block at the right side, with the left knee pointing forward, left thigh pointing forward. We'll bring the shin and see how to ribs as high as we can up the front thigh, sitting up nice and straight. So you're pulling the knee back towards you, pressing down with the sole of the foot. Relax down away from the ears, sitting up nice and tall. Slide the left hand down, hold the right ankle, pick up the right knee and the right ankle, and then hop the ankle across the left thigh. So if you find that the right sit bone is lifting off the floor or off the block at this leg, if your both sit bones are on the block or on the mat, then you can keep this left leg folded. But in either case, the right foot is crossed over the left thigh. So sitting up nice and tall, and then with a flat back we're going to lean forward, taking the chest and the ribs against that front thigh, and then with the left elbow around the right knee, hug that lower thigh, and then we'll sit back, keeping that knee so far as possible in that same position. So maybe it's just the middle of the thigh now is against the chest, but you can, whilst getting the spine nice and upright. So you might need to ease the elbow up towards the knee a little bit. And now what we're going to do is take the palms together and push the right palm into the left as we turn and look over the right shoulder. So you might feel quite a sharp stretch in the top of the hip here. And then coming back to centre. You can take a little counter posture, taking the right hand to the inside of the right ankle, left hand behind. So see if you can get the inside of the wrist against the sacrum bone, fingers pointing back, and the full length of the forearm against the spine, so it's holding you upright like a second spine. So inhale to sit up tall, exhale, twist, and look over the left shoulder. So keep inhaling to push up around further, so keep lifting and twisting in time with your own breath. Inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. And then when you're ready, coming back to seated position. We're going to take that left knee a little bit further out towards the left edge of the mat now, and bring the right ankle a bit higher up onto the front thigh. Support this knee from underneath. Any pain in the knee, don't do this exercise. So we're going to do some little hip circles with the knee supported from underneath. Don't just let the knee hang, you'll strain the ligament there. So you need to just support from underneath a little bit. And doing some hip circles to get into that right hip socket. So if you're coming And this is the seated diagonal side stretch. Lean over diagonally to the side, so we bring the elbow directly underneath the knee, and then look back over the left shoulder, bring the left arm upright, and then reach overhead and see if you can take the sit bones off the block, and you're resting on the left shin and the right elbow, and pushing into the right elbow to rotate the body out to the left and looking up towards the back of the left hand. Keep that shoulder relaxed, down away from the ears. Down back diagonally to the back end of the mat, right arm up overhead. So we're pushing into the left hand to keep the right sit bone grounded as we lean across. And then inhale, coming upright. So let's change sides and do that sequence again. So we'll take the right heel to the outside of the block, at the left side of the block, and bring the left heel to the middle of the right shin. Holding both hands against the left knee, sitting up high, and then leaning forward. The knee. And then you can pick up the knee, pick up the ankle and hop it across the outside of the thigh. So we're going to do that again, sitting up nice and tall, and then exhale, leaning forward, chest towards the knee, and the elbow wrapped tightly, sort of hugging that knee into the chest, and then sit back, keeping it positioned there so much as possible as you sit up. So then hands together in a prayer posture, and pushing with the left hand into the right, so the right elbows locked around the knee, and the left hand's pushing to get that twist so you can look back over the left shoulder. Inhale, sit up tall, exhale, push. Inhale, tall. So you're getting a stretch a little bit through the sciatic nerve. If you have sciatic nerve problems, don't overdo this one. Sitting up tall on the inhale, exhale, push and twist. And then coming all the way round for a counter twist. Left elbow to the inside of the left knee, left hand to the inside of the left ankle, right hand behind, sitting up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, sitting up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, sitting up tall, exhale, twist. When you're ready, coming back round to centre. Left ankle on top of the middle of the right thigh, right knee out towards the right edge of the mat, and support that knee from underneath, and we'll do some hip circles. Left hip. Sit it nice and tall and rocking round. Books or stack of magazines or whatever you have to hand. Try and have something ready at the beginning of the class. Unless you can do all these postures without elevating your hips on a block. So we're now going to take that elbow. So we're pushing the left hand into the outside of the left knee. And we're aiming to get that left elbow on the mat underneath the left knee. So, and then look back towards the right hand, bring it up overhead, leverage to come off the block, shin, left elbow. And twisting the torso out, looking up towards the sky. Bit of a stretch going on down the side of the hip, especially if you're stretching into the arm, and then sitting back on the block. And then you can come to a Sukhasana, easy pose, seated cross legs, each direction, and do a few more. A few to the left, and a few to the right. So we're coming to a seated side stretch now. Left hand out level with the left hip, palm flat, fingers spread, and middle finger pointing out directly to the side. We're going to take the right bicep to the right ear, relaxing the shoulder so it's down away from the ear, and pushing into the left palm as you inhale. So we're reaching up with the right armpit towards, scooping up towards the ceiling. Exhale and just hinging sideways. Just softening with the exhale. Lifting, exhale, softening over. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. So keep working into the stretch up the side of the ribs. And then you can make the stretch more dynamic by turning the palm up towards the ceiling and pushing on an exhale. And then coming all the way over and changing sides. So right hand out to the right, middle finger pointing out right, shoulder relaxed down away from the ear, bicep to ear, and exhaling to fold at the hips to the side. Inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. Stretch up the side of the ribs, then you can turn the palm, push the palm towards the ceiling and make it more dynamic on the exhale. And then coming all the way over and up to seated. We're going to come over onto our knees now, take the hands to a marker position at the front of the mat and bring the knees underneath the hips. And we'll come into some cat-cow dog. So fingers are spread, palms are flat, and we start by pulling the mat towards us. So the palms won't move, but we've got this feeling of pulling the mat. So it looks like this as you inhale. So as you inhale, you soften the belly, belly falls towards the floor. That's drawing the diaphragm down, filling the lungs. And then you push up into the arms, up into the shoulders, take the gaze up and the chest up. And then on the exhale, flatten out the back. Look back towards the knees, so bow the head to look back towards the knees, and then start rippling the spine up towards the ceiling. The lower back, the middle back, then the upper back, one vertebra at a time, rippling up towards the ceiling on the full length of your exhale. Inhaling, relaxing into the shoulders, pushing up into the shoulder, pulling the mat towards you, and exhaling, flattening the back, drop the head, look towards the knees, ripple the spine. So this is cow-cat. Inhaling, cow, exhaling into the cat. So keep that going a few more in your own time with your own breath. And then on the next one, when you come to a flat back, hold the flat back, and we're going to push up, or push down rather, into the hands and lift the knees up. And then we're going to fold at the knees, taking the sit bones towards the heels, keeping the knees lifted, and pushing the hips back, trying to keep the flat back so that eventually heels to come down towards the mat and start working into a downward facing dog. So you can take the feet a little bit wider, walking out the heels, and working on getting the chest back towards the front thighs and the back flat, or even a slight back bend. Biceps in line with the ears, and just want to out the hamstrings. And on the toes, bring the knees down, back in a flat back, release the toes, inhale cow, exhale tuck the toes, cat pose. Sit bones back towards the heels, then keep going, quarter dog, half dog, downward facing dog, and pedal out the heels again. So this time, as we come forward, what we're going to, instead of bringing the knees down, we're going to come into a high cat, so come onto the toes, and then start rippling the spine up towards the ceiling, starting with the tailbone, back one vertebra at a time, until you have the shoulders above the wrists. And then you can flatten out the back, bring the knees down, straight line plank, and then bring the knees down for a little bit of a rest. Then when you're ready, grip the mat strongly with the spread flat palms and start pulling the tailbone away from the wrists. So eventually there's nowhere else to go except start rounding up into a cat. Inhale. Exhale, flatten out the back, lift the knees and push the sit bones to the heels and start working into the downward facing dog. Inhaling onto the toes, rippling the spine up towards the ceiling, high cat, and then bring the knees down, sit back on your heels. Pull the rippling up into a cat, tuck the toes, inhale, into cow pose, pushing up into the shoulders, flatten out the back, lift the knees, push the sit bones forward towards the heels, quarter dog, half dog, down facing dog, pedal the heels, and then start ripping the spine. Come onto the tiptoes, ripple the spine up towards the ceiling, and then flatten out the back and bring the knees down and sit back on your heels. Okay, just a few little wrist exercises before we go into our Vinyasa. So the wrist stretch exercise, I'd like you to have the palm facing yourself, and then we're going to take the thumb of the opposite hand to the back of the little finger knuckle, and then the other fingers are wrapping around the pad of the thumb. So the fingers are pointing upwards, and then we're going to bring the angle, so the right elbow is pointing out to the right, and we're holding the fingertips pointing upwards. So from here we're going to exhale and then draw the wrist down towards the belly button. Outward turning wrist stretch, change sides. And then an inward turning wrist stretch. So we're going to have the elbow bent level with the shoulder, the fingertips pointing forwards, and the right palm facing out to the right. We're going to take the left thumb to the back of the right thumb knuckle and all the fingers around the little finger edge of the right hand, and just hold the hand in that position and then draw the wrist back towards the breastbone. So you should be getting a nice stretch through the wrist joint, and change sides and do that also on the left hand. With a shakeout. I'm going to come into a Vinyasa Sun Salutations sequence. So before we do, I'd like you to try the coming up to standing without using your hands. So bring the knees into the chest and start rocking backwards and forwards along the length of the spine. Hold behind your thighs so you can take the legs back to help build up some speed. Bending the knees as you come forward to kick yourself forward. And then on the very last one forward, what I'd like you to do is hold in front of the shins and then tuck yourself into as small, tight a little ball as possible. Bring the head towards the knees, pulling the shins down towards the top legs and the chest. So that's on your last one forward. What should happen is you'll increase the acceleration. You should be able to rock forward onto the soles without using your hands. So let's just give that one more try. Toeing, heeling and toeing, or heel and toe the feet into the starting position. So we'll have the feet hip width and the middle toes in line with the bony points on the front of the hips, the very front of the iliac crest of the hips. And then, as we know, we have this rotational grip into the mat, so we're the ball of the big toe and the ball of the second toe, and with the outside edge of the heel. So there's this rotational grip on the mat. If you didn't have any friction, your foot would be rotating, your right foot would rotate clockwise, your left foot would rotate anti-clockwise. Because we're gripping the mat with those 4 points, the feet don't move anywhere, and we've just got this nice grip into the mat, which is engaging the arches, both sets of arches in both feet. So this twisting motion is kind of also spiraling the energy up the legs, bringing the force up the legs, and you kind of end up maybe taking the hips forward a little bit. So to counter that, we're going to engage the belly muscles just enough. If you breathe out enough, that level of engagement should be enough to hold the hip. Then the spine is upright, and a slight outward rotation. Pointy bones here, compress flat into the back and widening the shoulder girdle out, and then the arms can hang loosely from the widened shoulder girdle. And this is Tadasana mountain pose. You don't need just a mild engagement in the feet and in the core, in the belly muscles and in the upper arms. So this is the starting position and the position we come back to at the end of each round of sun salutations. We're just going to move over so we have a little bit more space. So on the inhale, we're going to bring the hands together in front of the belly at Swadhisthana level, and then keeping the shoulders relaxed, especially as Start leading with the little finger edge of the palms to bring the hands, thumbnails above the eyes, and the fingertips pointing back behind you. So you can come into a bit of a back bend here if you want to. Hatha Uttanasana, standing back bend. A little bit or a lot, depends on what you want to do today. And then on the exhale, we're going to straighten up the torso and hands come past the face in prayer. So don't think of this as a forward fold, think of it as taking the hips back to get that movement. So as you take the hips back, you'll need to bring the torso forward so that you stay balanced. So as you come down, flat back, we're trying to keep the toes of the feet and the heels. And you'll get to a point at which you can't fold any further forward without the knees. The belly comes onto the front thighs, and then bring the hips down into a squat. Hands come ahead of you. Plant the hands back towards the knees, and then take the weight into the palms and step back with the right leg long lunge, the back right corner of the mat. So we're pushing up through the back of the right knee, but are still allowing that right ankle to be soft so that the heel's coming down towards the mat. Push down more now into the palms, into the heels of the palms, so you can release the left foot and the left foot comes back. So we're coming to a straight line plank here, holding the breath, Kumbhakasana, breath retention posture. Sometimes in the studio we'll practice doing this for up to 3 minutes, we're not going to do that today. So from here we're going to exhale, roll forward on the toes to bring the knees down, and then bend the elbows back towards the hips, keeping the back flat so that the chest point pose. Release the toes, inhale the mat, so you're pulling the mat towards you, the baby cobra. So there's no weight in the hands here, we're just using the back muscles to lift the head and shoulders off the mat. On the exhale, bring the chin down again, push down to the knees to elevate the hips and tap the toes, and then inhale, we're doing a half push up on the hands, pushing back towards our first downward facing dog. So once you get to about here with the hips slightly back behind the knees, you can push back into the toes to start taking the tailbone up towards the ceiling into the then working to your downward facing dog. Step through by taking the right leg high into a three-legged dog. If you find the step through is difficult or uncomfortable, if you can't do the full step forward without the palms lifting, then what you should do is a little cheat here where you slide the left foot forward 1 foot length, or as far as you can slide, push down to the right hand to take the right leg high. So we're trying to do the hips parallel to the floor, pushing back into the right wrist, particularly to get the right toe as far as we can from the right wrist, and then left foot, and then bend the knee, keeping the knee high. So the heel's coming towards the sit bone. And then we start rippling the spine up towards the ceiling, starting with the tailbone, the lower back, the middle back and the upper back as we flex in, pushing up into the back heart space to make as much space as we can for that knee to travel forward, and then kick it forward, placing it on the floor as far forward as you can without the palms lifting. So if it only comes halfway, right ankle, give it a helping hand forward, plant the hand back in marker position. Slide it back now to where it was before, so you're back in equestrian pose, and you have a straight line from the shoulders all the way down the spine, down the length of the leg to the ankle. From here we're going to inhale and pull the mat towards us as we push up, and then bring the knees together, and then the feet back to marker position, and then we can come into a half stick and straighten the legs. So if you can't get flat back, the straight legs with the hands on the floor, then take the hands up the outside to the legs as high as you need to get the back flat and the legs straight. You may still be able to reach the floor. Just going to let that train pass. So on the exhale, we're going to bend the knees a lot, take the head back to the knees, take the hands back to the floor, plant the hands, and then we're going to push into the heels of the palm, lean forward, pushing into the palms, and then on the inhale, pulling the knees up, front thighs parallel to the floor. You can take the hands to the front thighs to support you as you come up with a flat back, or take the arms ahead of you in the chair, squeezing the heels together as you come up, shoulders relaxed down away from the ears, back to a gentle standing back bend, and then straighten up the torso, hands come past the face in prayer to the heart center, and release into Tadasana mountain pose. Let's do that again on the other side, inhaling and exhaling, forward fold, front, back straight legs. Now step back left leg, long lunge, inhale, pull the mat towards you, push down into the toes, up through the back of the knee, take the weight in the heels of the palms and release the right foot back to a straight line plank. Rolling forward on the toes, bring the knees down, bend the elbows back towards the hips, bring chest and chin down together, inhale, baby cobra. Exhaling, push into the knees, elevate the hips, half push up, pushing back to your downward facing dog. Slide the right foot forward if you need to, inhale, pushing into the right wrist to get the tip of the left toe as far as you can from the left wrist. And then when you've done that, onto the toes of the right foot, and then bend the knee, heel to sit bone, keeping the knee high. Flex the foot and start rippling the spine towards the ceiling as the knee travels forward, towards the chin, shoulders above the wrists, and kick the foot forward between the hands. Slide the right foot back again if you need, if you slid it forward, and we're sinking back into our equestrian pose. And then pushing into the palms off the back toes, down into the left heel. Inhale, half standing forward bend. Exhale, standing forward bend. Inhale, standing, and back to Tadasana mountain pose. Release the hands and out the shoulders. And just using whatever the minimum tension you need to hold you in an upright standing position. So from here, we're going to move on and do some asana. So this is where we'll hold the positions for a minute or so. We're going to start with a revolved triangle. So we're going to take a feet hip width stance and then step back with the right leg, heel the same distance from the centre line of the mat. So the toes will have gone further from the centre line because they were pointing forward here. As you slide them back, they're coming out to the side a little bit. So the distance of the big toe from the centre line is further, but the heel is still in the same position. So we start with this legs in a straddle stretch, right knee above the right ankle, and the hips parallel to the short edge of the mat. So we're now going to support the weight on the front thigh and then bring the torso parallel to the floor, and then reach down with the left hand underneath the left shoulder on the inside of the right ankle, right instep. So you can now rotate the fingertips 45 degrees or so to the right and start pushing left as you rotate the left shoulder towards the right knee. So you take the hand back onto the hip, a bit through the back of the left knee to straighten the left leg without locking it. And once you're able to look up at the ceiling or up at the sky, you can take the right shoulder. So now we're going to lean more weight into the left palm and work on straightening the right leg. So make sure that left hand is far enough out to the left that you've got space to lean more weight into the left hand to give you space to straighten that right leg. And then reaching up towards the ceiling and then back and down. Plant on the outside of the right foot, and then you can inhale, step forward and come up with a flat back. And we'll change sides, standing in a slightly wider leg Tadasana position. We're going to step back with the right ankle and the toes are out to about towards 45 degrees, 30 to 45 degrees. Left knee above the left ankle. So please try and avoid this knee rolling in. We're trying to keep the centre of the knee tracking over, pushing forward towards the middle toe, but you don't take the knee any further forward than the ankle. Square the hips towards the short edge of the mat and then bring the torso forward. You can support the weight on the left front thigh with the palm slightly so that the fingertips are pointing towards the left or 45 degrees in towards the left. Taking the left shoulder towards, so pulling the mat out to the right with the right hand. And you can take the hand back to the hip to make some space and then bring the arm, the left hand above the left shoulder. Then lean more weight into the right arm and work on straightening the front leg. Revolved triangle, knee. Maybe take the hands to the floor and step forward as if we're coming out of a sun salutation. Standing Tadasana, nice and upright. So that was our standing balance. And we're now going to do another similar posture where we're going to stretch the hamstring. So this is called the intense side stretch, although it's not a stretch of the side body, it's a stretch of the hamstring. But it's a similar starting position where we take the right leg back, so we're in the straddle stance with the nice and upright, pushing out through the back of the right knee and allowing that right hip to come forward just enough. The hips are parallel to the short edge of the mat. So from here we're going to bring the arms up overhead like we're doing Warrior One. Shoulders relaxed down. Once we get into the Warrior One position, we're going to work on straightening the left leg. So keeping the torso in this same position, in that Warrior One position, torso stays in that position, but the effect of bending now both legs straight, so you can lift up without the shoulders hunching up and get a bit more of a back. Fold forward, so keeping that same back bend, we're going to hinge at the hips to fold. And you can bring the hand onto the front thigh if you want to. Nice and strong. So from here on, each inhale, looking forward out and up, each exhale, hinging at the hips. Inhale. So you've got to push on the inhale into the outside edge of the back foot. Exhale, hinging at the hips. Inhaling, exhaling. So you should be feeling a stretch through the left hamstring, maybe coming up into the there. Keep a slight bend on the knee. Don't let the knee lock out completely. Inhaling and exhaling. So you need to work in this position with the breath for a good 45 seconds before you get all the stretch out. Head towards the knee. And if you wish to, you can take the arms up overhead, behind you in a shoulder stretch. And then bring the arms along the back, bring the head up, bend into the front knee, come back into the upright straddle stance, and step forward, back to Tadasana and change sides, stepping back again into the straddle stance. So inhaling, Warrior One, exhaling, straightening the front leg. Inhaling in this position, then exhale, folding forward with a flat back, hands to the front thigh to support you if you want to. Inhaling and exhaling, working with the breath to get the torso and stretching into the right hamstring. Trying to keep the hips parallel to the short edge of the mat. Softening with the breath, hinging at the hips. And then when you're ready, taking the head towards the knee. Arms can come up overhead if you wish. Before bending into the front knee. Coming back upright and stepping forward. So we're going to do I'm just going to move the camera a little bit because the wind's blowing and the side of the tent is, yes, I think so. Okay. So we're going to do a revolved down dog now. A revolved three-legged down dog. So we did this recently, but we're going to practice it again because we're doing these rotational rotational twists through the hips today. So we're going to come into a down dog. And then take the right leg up behind, in a three-leg dog. So really pushing into that right wrist to get the tip of the right toe as far as you can from the wrist, and then bend the knee. So now this time we're going to take the knee out to the right, so this time the hips do come up and they're no longer parallel to the floor. So you might be able to find you can come up onto the fingertips of the right hand and turn the head out to the right, looking underneath the right armpit, and you can rotate on the ball of the foot, bring the heel down and see if you can come off into a full side plank, maybe tap the toe on the floor behind you before coming back over and bring the foot down. So we can do that again on the opposite side, on the left side. So we're going to come into the down dog, and maybe walk the heels out a little bit again. Just find where you're tight in the hips. Just use the down dog to loosen up a bit. And then inhale, taking the left leg up behind three-legged dog. Pushing into the right wrist, sorry, the left wrist. Tip of the left toe as far as you can from the left wrist, and then bend the knee. And then take the knee out to the left so that the hips stack, left on top of right, looking down onto the left fingertips, looking underneath the left elbow and the left armpit. Rotate on the ball of the right foot, right heel comes to the floor, and see if you can get the balance, taking the left hand off the floor. And then work on tapping the left toes on the floor behind you, maybe a little bit more elegantly than that, and then coming all the way back over and bring the feet down and walk the feet out again. Let's see how we're doing for time. Okay, so we're at 23. We've got time for maybe one seated posture. So we'll come into a simple straight leg forward fold. So if you have the block, use the block and stretch the legs out in front of you. And you're sitting upright in a right angle. So the legs are out more or less parallel to the floor, and the torso is more or less upright. Feet flexed, toes pointing back towards your face, and then pressing down through the backs of the heels. It's like almost rolling off the block, so if your sit bones are just forward of the front corner of the block, but the glutes are still on the block and the tailbone's still on the block. That kind of helps rotate the hips forward. So we're going to exhale, hinging at the hips, just resting the hands here, not pushing or pulling yourself so much at the moment. Gaze forward, out and up. Exhale, hinging at the hips. Inhale, gaze forward, out and up. Exhale, hinging at the hips. So if you want to, you can take the arms ahead to give yourself a little bit of extra leverage. It's taking the weight of the arms forward, that helps the weight, your body weight kind of helps work into the hamstrings. But not necessarily, you can keep the hands just relaxed wherever they come too comfortably. So inhaling and exhaling, really working with the breath here. So you might not come all that far forward with the flat back, but it doesn't really matter. It's not how far forward you can come. It's really about lengthening out the hamstrings and working into the lower back a little bit. So inhaling and exhaling. Keep working with the breath for at least 5 breaths or 45 seconds in this position, until you can find a little bit of extra stretch. So while you're still moving forward, you haven't reached the edge. Once you can't go any further forward, that's where you've reached the edge, and you just work with the breath backwards and forwards around the edge, softening the edge for 5 breaths. And then you can exhale, round down, taking the head towards the knees and softening forward. So now as you breathe in, you're breathing into the back ribs, and exhale, ribs, exhale, soften forward. Breath in a different way. See if you can relax around the shoulders,
feet flexed and pushing down through the backs of the knees as much as possible. Doesn't have to be a really strong push, just a gentle engagement through the hamstrings. And then inhale, sitting up tall, take the hands behind you, 6 to 8 inches, and lean back into the palms. Flex the feet, press down to the heels, and elevate the hips into a reverse straight line plank. And maybe see if you can elevate the hips a little bit higher. And then exhale, coming back down to your mat. Ready for your final relaxation. Taking the heels out to mat width, and then softening back on your mat one vertebra at a time. Take the arms out to the side. Allow the shoulder blades to soften into the mat. Let go of the legs so the feet fall out to the side. And tuck the chin slightly so the back of the neck is long. Just feel where the mat is supporting your body weight. Feel all the points where your body's in contact with the mat, the backs of the hands, the elbows, the backs of the shoulders, the back of the head, the back of the rib cage, down through the glutes, backs of the thighs, the backs of the calves, and the backs of the heels. And just listen to see if you can hear any sounds in your environment. Just notice they're there. The same with thoughts. If thoughts come in to distract you from your final relaxation, then just notice the thoughts are there and let them go, and bring your attention to your bodily sensations, and then bring your attention back to your exhale, going backwards and forwards from sounds to your breath, from thoughts to your breath, and from body sensations back to your breath. Washing backwards and forwards like ripples on a beach. Now pay some attention to your internal physiology. Start feeling how you benefited from your practice. Feel your attention flowing deeply down into your body, around the bones, through the joints, through the connective tissues, into the muscles, into the ligaments, into the soft tissues, through the skin, feeling your body strengthening, absorbing the benefits of your practice. And then slowly, carefully and mindfully in your own time, come up to seated in a cross-legged position, eyes closed or soft, backs of the hands resting on the knees, forefinger thumb connected in Gyam Mudra, face relaxed, spine upright, head upright, shoulders relaxed. Slow, soft, gentle breathing. And then we'll go through our closing rituals. We'll take the hands together in prayer at the floor level. Inhale, taking the arms all the way up through the central channel, overhead, and then spreading the arms out high and wide, surrounding yourself with peace and positive energy that you've created. Grounding it on the floor, and then inhale, scooping it back up, surrounding yourself with a protective rainbow, sealing it between your palms, and then drawing it down past your face to your heart center. Bow the head to the fingertips. Namaste. Thank you for attending the class. It's been a pleasure. Please would you leave a comment or a like or something so that I know who's been here, and I'll be here again tomorrow. Tuesday class is 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock, Monday class is 7:30 till 8:30. So I'll be here again tomorrow, live streaming to Facebook,
Hope you can make it. If not, I'll be back here again 7:30 on Monday. Stay safe, practice social distancing, and look forward to seeing you online, in the gap, or back in the gym when everything's back to normal. Namaste.